What's up, Five Knuckle fans? I saw Gore Verbinski's A Cure for Wellness, and wow, I actually am a little disappointed in this one. I didn't know much about this movie coming out, but I was offered free tickets for a private screening and saw the trailer of it, and it looked visually interesting and had an air of mystery to it. What was going on at this facility? Why are they floating in tanks? Let's figure this out. And I think the main problem with my movie is that it doesn't know what kind of movie it wanted to be. It seemed to bounce from different genres, from supernatural to fantasy to science fiction and all of that. I'll get into more detail in the spoiler section, but going into this, you're not going to know what kind of movie this is up front. It takes many twists and turns, and for the most part, it doesn't take them very well. It staggers, it hits a few signs, and maybe runs over a rabbit on the way down this impossibly curvy road that should have never been constructed. As for the movie's horror elements, it did have genuinely disturbing, horrific moments and some pretty creepy imagery. Sometimes it was over the top, sometimes it was just enough. There was never underplayed, is what I'm saying. They never underplayed the horror elements. And I guess I can appreciate that enough as is. Our main character sort of starts off unlikable. He's this business douche, and he's fabricating documents in order to move up in the company, and they catch on to it and said, hey look, we'll sweep this entire thing under the rug if you can get our CEO back from this place in Switzerland. And the guy's like, you know what, I think I'll do that. Again, he doesn't start off that likable. He doesn't really have any heroic slash relatable attributes in the beginning of the film. But we'll move on past that. The place itself seems pretty creepy, and even the townsfolk's reaction to it act as if it's a haunted slash forbidden area, and I will be getting to them very shortly. The effects were decent here and there, and another issue with this film is not only did it know what particular genre it wasn't exactly sure where to end or where to carry out its plot points. There are several points in this film where it seemed like this should be the end of the movie, but it just keeps going, and then you'll question, okay, why would the characters allow this, or why would this person do that? And that happens a lot throughout this movie. I'd say about 3 or 4 times. It seems like it should be the ending point, but it just keeps going. And it gets a little more and more of the tension, in my opinion, is lost through it. Overall, this film took a bunch of its crap and threw it at the wall and tried to see what would stick. And when something did stick, another piece of crap would come by, knock it off of the wall, and then we have a wall with stains of what could have been a proper masterpiece. I think that makes sense. Overall, I would not recommend this movie as a whole. Does it have decent, thrilling moments in it? Yeah, sure. But in the large part, the larger picture, the final product that was produced by this director, by this company, is not up to my own personal standards. And for that, it is garbage. Nah, not really, but even still, I wouldn't recommend it. It was disappointing for me. It started to know how to build the tension, but didn't know where to go with it half the time. It gets a little bit surprisingly more far-fetched as more is explained for some reason. Anyways, not recommended. If you're still curious, check it out. You might like it. I know the audience got into it. I didn't. Fuck you, Ryan.
Wrong.
Okay, now we're gonna get into the spoiler section of this movie. Okay, so it turns out at the end of this movie that I didn't get, it's the Baron from the 18th century that extracts life juices from people in order to have eternal life and youth, and that the others are in on this. Why he uses the weird fish leech things isn't really explained. I didn't get that. Maybe I missed a line. Since the daughter is over 200 years old, don't you think she would have noticed that over 200 years would have passed. Like, she's not restricted. She does interact with some of the other characters, and she's allowed to roam around. So don't you think, like, every now and again someone would come in listing off a different president or talking about cell phones or computers? Like, wouldn't you think it's a little odd that so much time has passed? Like, I'll know when one day has passed or when 1 week has passed without the use of a calendar or my iPhone, so she should be able to tell when over 2 centuries have passed and been like, oh, I'm just still waiting here for my father, even though all these people come here and end up dying of old age and shit. Originally what I thought this was it gonna be a supernatural / sci-fi thriller? Because, like, at certain points where she's like, on the ruins of the castle, and she's standing completely still, but then she's like, it looks like in different spots. So you're telling me, like, as the car was going down the hill, she ran as fast as she could to the next spot, stood completely still, and just continued watching the same car go by? Maybe it was just the angles, but that seemed really confusing and threw me out of a loop. And also, at many points, not a lot was explained. Like, why when he revealed that they're poisoning the water, they're not really treating these people, they're not getting better, that they all stand up and start chanting in unison and maul the guy? They never did that before. They never gave any real indication that they did that. So are they under some kind of mind control? And if they are, why would, like, the doctors and everyone do their best to keep them all happy and stuff when they can just mess with their minds, apparently? I guess because it's not really permanent, because at one point the CEO he went there to get asked about the stock and seemed like really aggressive and angry, and then other times he's just really confused and happy with being there. So, like, what are the effects of this place? Is the leeches going inside of the people releasing dopamines that makes them happy to be there? Do the leeches mess with their memories and their thinking capabilities? What are the logistics of this? If you had just said it was ghosts and black magic, I would have bought it. I would say, oh, okay. But when you sit down and show me the entire process of how this all comes about, but you leave out certain details, I'm going to focus on those certain details. Alright, I'm a thinker for the most part, usually, about half the time, and leaving those sort of plot holes open bothered me throughout the film. What are the leech things? Why do they sometimes eat people? Yeah, it eats the bad guy at the end, but when the main character gets like 17 of those things force-fed down his throat, why wouldn't they eat him from the inside out? Are they different leech fish things? Are there different species? There was no indication and they looked exactly the same, so how come only sometimes they eat people? And I guess he hallucinates the leeches sometimes? So, like, how often were they hallucinations? I don't know, this film, it didn't know what it wanted to be. If the leeches were, like, entirely imaginary and were just, like, an abstract representation of, like, the turmoil the character was going through, maybe. I don't know. This film would have been so much better if the script had a second draft. Oh well, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and follow us on all social media. Let me know what you thought of the film down below, but beware of spoilers. Some folks haven't seen it because it's not out yet at the time that I released this video. Jeez, like, that remark is gonna be so dated in 2 weeks. Peace out, folks.